Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm talking about Warriors of Plasm, #1. Continuing my exploration of the top selling comics of 1993, we're sticking to #1s and anniversary issues, event comics, if you will. We're going to look at Warriors of Plasm #1. This was the number 61 selling comic of 1993. So that's pretty good. It's in the top 100 and really just barely out of the top 50. So Defiant Comics was Jim Shooter's next venture post Valiant. After he had been ousted from that company, he went off to form another one and do basically the same kind of magic he did when he was at Valiant. If you're unfamiliar with the Jim Shooter era of Valiant, it was really some of the best storytelling of the 1990s. Maybe didn't have the flashy art of Image, but definitely had the more concise, put together, preconceived idea of a shared universe. And Valiant did the right thing of rolling books out kind of slowly. It started out with 2 titles, then went to 4, then went to 8. By the time Jim Shooter left, that's when it started going crazy with like gimmick covers, putting out a bunch of #1s, kind of following more of an Image mold, and that's when it started to go downhill. At the same time, Jim Shooter got financial backing to start another company, and unfortunately, it started off with the gimmick of having the 0 issue of Warriors of Plasm and another title start with a card set. The comic itself was a card set. I don't have that anymore. I got rid of that one a long time ago. I kind of wish I still had it just to review, but it basically set up the stage of the world to launch this title. It's also actually was originally meant to be called just Plasm, but Marvel UK had a title called Plasmer, so Marvel sued, and so they changed the name to Warriors of Plasm. So that's why that looks like almost like it was added on, like with a crayon up there. The art in this book is by Dave Lapham, who would go on to do some really stellar indie work with Stray Bullets and some other noir series that he would, graphic novels and stuff that he would do. But he got his start at Valiant with Jim Shooter and followed him over to Defiant. Shooter must have really liked him enough to bring him over. So let's take a look inside. The world of Plasm is like this all organic planet where everything, the ships, the clothes they wear, the technology they use, everything is essentially made out of living material. And even these kind of drone characters are, I think they call them zoms even. They are like recycled material. And that's what they do. They would go to other planets and kind of cull the planet to put them into their like biomass of material, of their resources, to basically create and operate their own world. This guy, I believe his name is Lorca, is kind of like a general that leads these expeditions to go do this. But in the 0 issue, he met someone that felt like sentient, independent life shouldn't be treated in such a way, and that they needed to get out from that. So now he's kind of a mole within the greater organization himself. Although I wouldn't say he's like the hero of the story necessarily. So we start out, he's doing one of these expeditions on this planet. Nice splash page here. So I do like the art in this a lot, and I think the colorist is, I think it's, Janet Jackson, James Brown, not the musicians, obviously. But I do like the colors in this. I think it says it's painted colors, obviously not painted in the sense of like Alex Ross. Still has a very comic book look, but like a high quality look. You don't see like the computer coloring of this era that was taking over at the time. A lot more detail and more like volume and life really into this, I think, than the stuff that like Image and even Malibu was doing with the very early and I would even argue crude digital coloring of the time. So everything stands out. I mean, you've got the blues in the foreground, makes this fire and explosions stand out, and the receding colors in the background. So as you go through, then you meet this woman, and she's like an on the ground general, and she's all about just slicing people up, but they don't look at it as murder because they see it as they're being taken and to the biomass to be incorporated into the ecosystem of the world. So to them, it's almost like they're doing an honor for these people. They're not just doing it to slaughter and take over. That is what they're doing, but that's not how they view it. So he had like a relationship with her, but he's not really into her, but he's like feigning it on to keep up his position and status as like kind of the mole. So they returned back to their planet. I think they called it the Great Org. So he just returns and is kind of going through the motions here. See, the people love him. They think that he does this great job finding planets and stuff to add to the mass. And these are people, and they can have themselves kind of like plastic surgery changed, sort of, into these things. Basically, they can go into like places and just have their whole like bio DNA and stuff arranged to look like however they want to look and do the things they want to do. It's a little decadent. I mean, like even in these scenes, what's going on here? It could be taken in a very sensual way. But this is like an elevator thing coming down. So this is pretty high concept science fiction, and I think this is something that Jim Shooter excelled at, that made Valiant so special at the beginning. And this is pretty good as we come to this page. So this is the girl that he met in the Zero issue that I don't have or I'm going to discuss, but this is her. Although she was killed in that, he was somehow able to like keep a copy of her essence and can have this machine essentially spit out a clone of her with her memories and everything intact, ready to go. And then he can do whatever with her here and make another like updated copy, I guess, of her essence so that he can just dispose of this whenever. Now this one he keeps pretty much through the whole issue. Right here he's explaining how he needs warriors with him if he's going to overthrow the whole system. And he knows that he can't really amass them on their own planet. So he looks towards Earth. And you start seeing these like common everyday people, and he's sent these like creatures to go get them essentially. So here this guy, he's like, what is this bug? While his wife is turned around making some breakfast, and it just like sucks him up and teleports him and thousands of others, up to 10,000. And so his idea is he's going to put them in this like bio juice bath that's going to give them some enhanced abilities to be warriors for him. And unfortunately, it goes sideways, and the people start dying immediately. So essentially, he kills like 10,000 people, and you think he's going to be all distraught that he took all these innocent people from Earth and killed them, but really, he doesn't so much care about their lives. He cares that it didn't work, and now he doesn't have his army, and he has to cover his tracks. So he's basically like, this didn't work, this failed, just go ahead and recycle them, and do it quickly, efficiently, so that, I can explain, I don't have to explain myself to the people above me. But, as it turns out, about 6 of them did survive, which he's unaware of at the moment, because now he has to go talk to somebody that's above him in the chain of command. Not even about this, but about the other thing he was already doing. But it's like the timing works out, this guy. The timing works out that he just has to go. So then we get to meet our human characters, and, they're all like kind of average people. This is a lady probably in her like late 40s or 50s, and So is this guy. I believe he's like a pasture. You got this big guy who's actually missing an arm. Then you just have like a young woman, and the stuff in there. They're from different places, but the bio stuff is able to, you know, create translators so they can understand each other quickly, and also creates them some clothes. It's like bio clothes, but they don't have any weapons. So Lorca goes to meet this guy who's got this like kind of slug like body, at least in this issue, because remember they can change how they want to look. And he's kind of like he's not the top boss of everything, but he's above Lorca in a lot of ways. I think he's like head of security or protocol or something. And so he's basically he knows something shady's going on with him, but he can't prove it yet. So he wants to, try to use his influence to scare it out of him when the general girl, the on the field battle manager, comes up and is basically like, "You need to stop." And he tests Lorca like, "If you're so loyal, you'll just go ahead and kill her." And she's like, "Go ahead and do it because I know you are loyal. Just do it," and not scared or anything. And she thinks he'll do it. He was going to do it. He tries to fire it, but it doesn't fire because the guy's just trying to set him up. And basically, they're like, "Haha, in your face. I did try to do it," because he doesn't really care about her. He just puts on a show. But then she finds it even more attractive that he was going to do it. Anyway, back to our humans. So now they're actually on the run because this guy had said to just kill off whoever, because that wasn't going to be enough of an army that he needed. So just he wanted to try again separately. So he's like, just get rid of them. And they're running through these tunnels, which I can only imagine all of this like world that they're in is like soft. Everything is like squishy, is how I imagine it. Because it doesn't look like bone; it looks fleshy, you know. So this guy, I believe, was like a military guy, so he's able to, kind of bum rush these the Zoms and get a weapon. Or he gets weapons for all of them. So now they have weapons and they're trying to escape. Of course, they have no idea where they're going or what they're doing. They're just kind of running. And as they go, they find out like, wow, I've got super strength all of a sudden. And as they like do stuff, it starts to regenerate and regrow the Zom's head here. So they're pretty freaked out, as you can imagine, as they march forward. Kind of a neat little diagram here of the tunnels that they're running through within the planet. And he's just like, this is getting ridiculous. We've got to get rid of them. Go get them and exterminate them. And from here on, we're just kind of moving along. They send something more dastardly after him. She got shot in the back, but I think she's okay. I think it turns out that she has like an invulnerability. And then I can't remember all their powers. This guy was cool. He has powers kind of like Dazzler, except he doesn't take sound and turn it into light. He absorbs all the light in the room and then can focus it and fire it out like a laser. And then whatever the new light source is will come back. So it's kind of neat. He can it makes everything except around him dark, and then he can fire it. There's some pretty cool powers and stuff being used here. I think the young girl has kind of like a empath telepathy power is what she ends up with. And she's able to convince these Zoms to put them in like a teleportation thing and send them back to Earth. And that's pretty much where we leave off. So this first issue, because the world of Plasm had already been established in a Zero issue, I don't think they do a great job in this #1 about establishing like the organic stuff. That was stuff I kind of had to pull from my memory. But they do introduce the human characters fairly well. They do give them all names. They establish some power sets in a pretty dramatic escape fashion. They establish, his motivations pretty well, and uh, it set up pretty interesting series. And this was pretty interesting for the duration of the book. I can't remember how many issues it lasted. I think it was in the teens. I want to say like 17, 18 issues before the company folded. And if I recall correctly, it didn't wrap up. Like, it just stopped. So you have Jim Shooter kind of explaining, what he wants to do with Valiant. He doesn't really spend any time talking about his past going on. The good guys. Yeah, this was like a contest that they were going to run that you could be one of the characters. They would base a character off of you in this. So you had to be 8 to 16 years of age to be one of the good guys. And I have vague memories of that series. It came out probably about 6 months after this. So it was in development. I guess they just probably had a character already that they're like, we'll plug your likeness in if you do it. And then Dark Dominion, that's one I'll probably cover in this series of videos too. But that's it for Warriors of Plasm #1. This is a perennial dollar box find. I got this one in a dollar box. It's kind of beat up. I did have the whole series at one point, including the card set. If I can find the card set again, I might pick it up again if it's super cheap. This is a decent sci-fi series. Really good art by Dave Lapham. I do like the colors in it. This cover is... I don't know that this is a great cover because these characters wear their costumes. I don't like the colors of their costumes, color schemes. They don't jump out at you. And really, big fat guy, old lady, old bald man. Does that like jump out to kids? Probably not. That's probably not an attention grabber. I was just into this kind of stuff. I was into the sci-fi stuff. I was into Valiant. I trusted Jim Shooter, so I was all in. But I don't know that this appealed to every other average comic reader out there, especially the people who were into Image and the flashy things that Marvel and DC were doing at the time. So that's all I got on Warriors of Plasm #1. Until next time, read your comics.